Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you back to the Mindset Alchemy podcast. And if you're new, well, I'm glad you're here. And today you are in for a treat. Today we have Victoria Finch, who is a healer of hearts, amongst other things, who's going to be sharing with us. Hello, Victoria. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that I am here today. What a true blessing.
Oh, definitely it is. Now, people, Victoria has a lot of things she has done. So I'm going to ask her to introduce herself to us and explain what she has, I wouldn't say studied, but studied and been involved with, and generally how she got to where she is today. Victoria, please share with us how you are here today. I mean, we know now, we're talking about professionally now.
Oh, not so much mom and dad, how I got here.
Not so much mom and dad. No, although that's
I get it. So as you know, I'm Victoria Finch, and I am also known as the heart healer. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But as far as how I got here, there was a moment when I was hopeless and I really needed to get my own healing. And I think the best of us have gone through something in life. And in seeking my own healing, I knew I needed to do some things and learn some things. And when I realized at some point I had a heart issue, I knew that there had to be other people in the world that felt like I did, depressed, despondent, anxious, all those emotions that really are lower vibrational emotions. And what I did was I got my own healing. And in that process, I realized that if I wanted to heal the world one heart at a time, which was my given mission, I needed to be prepared to do that. So I am a master hypnotherapist, a master practitioner of emotional freedom techniques, certified through the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine, the International Board of Coaches and Practitioners. I'm also certified in cognitive behavioral therapy, life coaching, and a bunch of other modalities, because we're all different, right? And so we need to be able to help people where they are and not one size fit all. I'm a two-time international bestselling author. The 2 books on the top, Journey of Riches, are on Amazon, and then my 4 of my books actually are on Amazon. And that's me.
Well, people, you can see that Victoria is very qualified to help people go from hopeless and helpless to heart whole, and I hesitate to say fancy free. And what's the reason? Okay, before I get lost in that train of thought and take us down the rabbit hole rather than where we're going, Victoria, what do you find is one of the primary challenges your clients come to you with?
Yes, stuck in life, feeling unworthy, feeling not enough, feeling invisible, abandonment, not having their needs met, and not feeling they have the right or the worth to get their needs met. A lot of unworthiness and unforgiveness of self.
Wow, that's a large one. Would you like to address that for our audience? Because that unforgiveness of self shows up in so many ways in our lives.
It absolutely does. We spend a lot of time in the familiar past. And when we are dragging the familiar past into the eternal now, we tend to stay in a place of self-blame. We blame ourselves for things we've said, things we've done. We spend time with, if only I would have, if only I had of. And there's a lot of shoulda, wouldas. And we always tend to blame ourselves, especially if you've experienced trauma. If you've experienced trauma, you feel very much the blame for everything that's happened to you. And what I'd like to say to people is, it's not your fault. It's never been your fault. It's always what other people are dealing with. It's not you. Now, does that mean we haven't done and said things that perhaps we shouldn't have? We walk in a human existence, And there's times when we're going to be angry or upset, and we may say or do things that maybe we're not so proud of. That doesn't mean we don't learn to forgive ourselves. That's the only way we can move on, because we can't change that past. It is what it is. But we can look at the now and say, I was a different person. It was a different time. And what did I learn?
Yes. I find with so many of my guests, it comes back to what did I learn? And then where do I go to with that? With your clients, how open are they to acknowledging that they can release their past? Because many find this scary. What do you find with that?
It's very scary. It's very scary to go to dark places and things that we have suppressed. And what we know, what we resist, persists. Daniel Wagner did a white bear experiment. And in this experiment, he told people not to think about a white bear. That was one set. He told another set to think about anything they want, including a white bear. And you ring the bell whenever a thought of a white bear came up. The participants that he told not to think of the white bear rang the bell many more times than the other participants who were allowed to think about anything, including the white bear. And what that showed is that when we start to suppress our feelings, they keep coming up. They keep coming up. And until you can go to those dark places and spaces, it's going to stay and it's going to show up. Maybe you'll be angry, anxious, depressed. Maybe you'll have relationships that you can't figure out. Why do I always get in these same relationships? It's because there's something that you're suppressing, and that inner child is crying to be free.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Now you're touching on a topic that is very powerful for me, and that is the inner child. So many times we've been told as children, stop doing that, and that, you can't play and don't do this, and it's a mess. How do you empower your clients through inner child work? What is the primary thing you focus on?
Yes. The primary thing is really those feelings of unworthiness. Many times we want to live up to others' expectations of us. I just had an incident, and my son allows me to share these things. My son calls me a couple of days ago, very depressed, very upset. He's like, Mom, I don't know what's happening with me. I'm not sure. I just feel depressed, and I don't know what to do about it. And I said to him, typically when I get that way, because I'm human too, even as a heart healer, it's because it's something I don't want to face. It's something I'm holding in. He calls me back a day and a half later, and he's a football player, been playing football since he was a child. And he said, Mom, I've been injured a lot during this game. And you were right. I was trying to avoid the decision not to play anymore. Oh. And he plays in college. He's like, Mom, my body's beat up. I'm young. Dad played football, and Dad warned me not to be like him and have a beat up body when I'm 50 years old. And once he was able to come to that conclusion, he calls me up a day later, happy as can be, because he released what was going on. Now, in this case, his inner child was saying, I'm going to let everyone down. I've got this scholarship in college, and they've paid all this money. My father will be disappointed. My mom will be disappointed. Everybody. So his inner child was just like crying out, no, it'll be okay. But you have to have that safe space. And I create that safe space by letting people understand, my clients understand, I will not judge you. I will not share our confidentiality. You matter. And there's nothing you can tell me to make me think any different of you, because you are human and you are part of the masterpiece. You
touched on a very important point there that I've seen with people. You matter. So many times people feel as though they don't matter. I mean, if so many times, men and women, I speak with them and they say, well, when I was growing up, I felt like I was adopted. And they see adopted as being a child who's unwanted, instead of that an adopted child is very much more wanted normally. What is your experience with your clients and that deep need to matter?
Yes,
To be
yes.
significant to someone.
We all have that need to matter. We as human beings, we are tribal people. We are herders because we had to survive. If you left the herd, you were not going to survive. Mm-hmm. And I have to let people understand that they do matter, and I have to help them see their worth. I had a client who suffered horrible abuse from an alcoholic father, horrible abuse, coming home from school, not knowing if, am I going to get beat today? Getting threatened to be thrown out a window, being told horrible things. And so she carried this all of her life. And when we first started working together, in emotional freedom techniques, you use exposure therapy and cognitive behavior therapy. It uses those two together. And one of the things that she had an issue with was saying she loved herself. And she says, I'm not lovable. Mm-hmm. No one will ever love me. I'm not lovable. Mm. And I kind of did something and I said, well, maybe you're not lovable. Maybe not. And by doing that, I did not validate that. I triggered her subconscious to say, well, wait a minute. I've got a child that loves me, right? And now she's figuring out ways to feel that love. Now, it wasn't that easy, but that opened her up to the possibility that she was lovable. Because again, what you resist persists.
Absolutely. And something I've been discovering is very often what we resist is the direction we to go in and to deal with or to accept or to work with. Obviously, if you're resisting jumping off a cliff, go and discover the reason the desire is there.
Yeah.
It might be for abseiling, or it might be for, they do that deep diving, or that it might be for other reasons. The important thing, though, is especially with inner child work, what I have seen is so many people have lost the ability to have fun. They've lost the ability to tap into that heart feeling of mattering, of having fun, of lightness of being. How did you come back to your lightness of being?
Yes. I had an incident when I was 2 years old. I was the youngest of 6 children, and I did have a very loving family. I just couldn't see it. I didn't understand it. When I was 2 years old, I didn't have a bedroom. I didn't have a crib, anything of my own. And I stayed with my parents most of the time. And one time my parents asked me to leave their room. I went to my sister's room. They said, get out. I went to my brother's room. They said, get out. Here I am, a child still in her nappies or diapers, feeling unwanted. So I sat by my parents' door. Mm-hmm. That little girl sat by her parents' door for over 50 years. Yeah. I grew up feeling unwanted and unloved. It accumulated to one day I'm sitting on the side of the bed, not caring if I woke up the next morning. And as I got ready to take antidepressants, as always, I heard a voice say, I made you on purpose for purpose, and this is not it. And I call that the voice of God, the divine, whatever you want to call it. And I got up, poured out those antidepressants, never went on them again, realized I had a heart issue. And that's when I sought my healing. I got into hypnotherapy. I got into cognitive behavior therapy. And I had to learn to love myself and see my own worth. That's how I became the heart healer, because I knew there were other people who needed that healing. It's all about seeking out. When you get to the point to where you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, you've tried it all.
Yeah.
Start considering a more holistic approach. I work with clients who've been years in therapy. I mean, years in therapy. They work with me after a couple of sessions, and their therapist tells them, literally, I hear this quite often. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing. Come back if you need me.
I must say I've had that same experience, and I thank you for sharing that very vulnerable experience, because so many times, Victoria, that is what happens to people. It happens to all of us. We feel that rejection, that neglect, even the most confident of us.
Yes.
How did you step back into that confidence? What was it that took you back into your confidence, apart from the incident with the bed? Because yes, that happened. The thing is, it's that journey to get back into confidence.
Yes.
What was your journey like?
Unfortunately, people who are high achievers are often the ones who hurt the most. And the reason why I became a high achiever was because I kept looking for validation outside of me. I wanted to be validated. And I got to the point where I had to realize that the only way to be validated was through me. And that's through the healing that I went through. The only way that I could truly find love was to learn to love me. And how did I do it? Meditation, working with spiritual leaders, being open to receive. That's the hard part, is that openness to receive. And even if it's something that might hit me kind of, I don't know about that, I said, let me think about it. And it's that openness. And then serving, I started serving, because giving is receiving and receiving is giving. And when you can serve others, you start to see, I'm worth. When you put that smile on that other person's face. So for me, through healing with others, through understanding my worth, forgiving myself.
Oh, yes.
And serving others.
That is so beautiful. I'm trying to remember who it was that said, when you're feeling depressed, go and do something for somebody else. Go and work at a shelter or an animal shelter, so that very, very much resonates. Now, that self-forgiveness, so many times people go, well, again, we come back to worth, we come back to value, because we have these beliefs, we have these self-sabotaging perceptions of ourselves. What was the first step you took to forgive yourself? Can you remember? Because I know you've done
it. I know exactly what it was. Lanya Van Zandt wrote a book in the meantime. And one of the things she suggested in her book, that you write 100 times, I forgive myself for anything I may have said or done. I forgive myself for anything I may have said and done. And the writing and the speaking of those words is amazing, how it can help you move towards self-forgiveness. Most people get to about 37 or 40, and that is an assignment I give to all my clients. And most of them get to about 37, 40, but it's life-changing. Journaling. I started to journal my feelings. I had to get them out because they were stuck here. And journaling is very important. Gratitude. Write down what you're grateful for as you're walking. If your child smiles at you, say, I'm grateful that I have a child. You're washing the dishes. I'm grateful that I had food that dirtied these dishes, or whatever, and staying in those higher states of mind of gratitude and love. When we are in a state of gratitude and love, scientists can actually have machines that show that you radiate this energy pattern up to 3 meters. That's about 9-10 feet.
Wow.
And you can see it. And what ended up happening is, as I started to learn gratitude and I started to forgive myself, synchronicity started to step in. I started to run into people who would just say things to me, or they would come to me and just start talking to me. And that is the magic of healing, is being open and having that gratitude and right.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Sorry, what was the name of the book you said, the author in the book? You said you got out a book that you wrote.
It's Lanya Van Zandt. Yes, the name of the book was Ilyana Van Zant.
Okay, people go look her up. I've read some of her work. She has some beautiful work. If you had to leave our audience just with a single thought or understanding today, what would that be? Please, could you share it now?
Yes.
But if you could, please, would you?
I see you. You matter. You are enough.
Wow. People, on that note, I am going to thank Victoria and say, wow, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Is there anything else you would like to add before we say goodbye? You've brought so much value.
If you do find yourself stuck and you would like to talk to me, I do offer a no-cost clarity call, and you can reach out to me at justaskvictoria.com. That would be Victoria at justaskvictoria.com. You can find me on social media channels. Instagram is Just Ask Victoria, and that's an underscore. Also Facebook, Just Ask Victoria. You can find me even on YouTube. So you can find me a lot of places. But if you really like to have a no-cost clarity call, I'm here to serve. You can contact me at Victoria at justaskvictoria.com.
Wow, that is a very generous offer. Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate that very, very much. People, I will put Victoria's details in the show notes. And please remember that, as Victoria says, you are enough. Thank you again, Victoria. That was absolutely incredible.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute gift to have you. People, please make sure you share this with your friends so they can also learn that they can heal their hearts and that they can go from hopeless and stuck to whole and vibrant, because Victoria knows the way and she helps to show you there as well. Bye-bye, everyone, and thank you for joining us.